So at least he didn't buy the clickbait that all the media did. So the judge said no sanctions, but he also said that Justin Baldoni needs to be better at finding people. Justin Baldoni's team needs to try harder. He did not accept their ask for subpoenaing her with alternative methods. He said, keep trying, basically keep bullying, keep harassing. The judge said, thankfully, is that he's denying Isabella Ferrer to put any sanctions on Justin Baldoni's lawyers for harassing her with this subpoena. One of the YouTube channels called Without a Crystal Ball, Katie, who's behind that channel, posted on Instagram that she had received tons of emails and text messages from James Tutushka, where he was telling her that he was pressured to sign that first sworn statement by the Daily.
A Hollywood courtroom battle has spiraled so far out of control that even the judge himself has reached his breaking point. What happens when movie stars, lawyers, and journalists collide in a storm of subpoenas and scandal? Could this fight not only destroy reputations, but actually backfire so hard it reshapes the entire case? The cracks are showing, and one side may already be on the verge of collapse. But before we get into the details, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications, because this is the case that Hollywood can't stop whispering about, and you're going to want to know what happens next. The latest twist in the legal battle between Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni has revealed something far more important than just a procedural hiccup. It's exposed the weak points in Lively's entire strategy, and the judge's reaction makes it clear that the court is running out of patience. At the center of all this drama is actress Isabella Ferrer, a name that wasn't on most people's radar until recently. On the surface, she's just another supporting figure in this Hollywood feud, but in the courtroom, she could be the one holding information that swings the entire case. Justin Baldoni's legal team has been working to subpoena Ferrer. That's standard practice. If someone has information relevant to the case, the court can order them to testify or produce evidence. But Ferrer hasn't made this easy. She has repeatedly avoided attempts to be served, moving, not answering, slipping just out of reach. Each failed attempt costs time, resources, and credibility. And here's where things get complicated. Instead of quietly dodging service, Ferrer went public. She accused Baldoni's team of harassment.
The thing the judge said, thankfully, is that he's denying Isabella Ferrer to put any sanctions on Justin Baldoni's lawyers for harassing her with this subpoena. So at least he didn't buy the clickbait that all the media did. So the judge said no sanctions, but he also said that Justin Baldoni needs to be better at finding people, because the two addresses that they tried to get hold of Isabella, she doesn't live in this place in Brooklyn, according to her neighbors and according to another neighbor out at Sag Harbor. She's not on that address either. To solve this problem like normal people would, she would just give them an address and say, hey, why don't you serve me here? Because she can't run away from the subpoena. It's the law. But instead, she wants to play cat and mouse. And the only thing that shows us is that she has something to hide. She doesn't want to be found. She doesn't want to be subpoenaed. She doesn't want to tell Justin Baldoni what she told Blake Lively.
Now think about that word, harassment. It's loaded. It doesn't just imply inconvenience. It suggests aggression, violation, even danger. When headlines popped up claiming Baldoni was harassing yet another woman, the narrative instantly shifted. Suddenly, this wasn't about due process. It was about painting Baldoni as a repeat offender, someone who bullies women, stalks them, pressures them, the kind of label that sticks, regardless of context. But inside the courtroom, the judge wasn't buying it. Ferrer asked the court to sanction Baldoni's team, basically to punish them for their so-called harassment. The judge looked at the evidence and flatly denied her request. In simple terms, the judge said, this isn't harassment, this is legal procedure. That single ruling changes everything. It not only clears Baldoni's team of wrongdoing, it exposes Ferrer's claim as exaggerated, maybe even manipulative. The judge then went a step further. He told Baldoni's attorneys they hadn't even tried hard enough. In his words, their efforts to serve Ferrer were insufficient. He pushed them to be more persistent, more aggressive, more thorough. Think about the optics of that for a second. A Hollywood actress claims she's being harassed, and instead of siding with her, the judge instructs the supposed harassers to keep going harder. That's not just a legal setback for Ferrer, it's a credibility disaster.
The judge also said for you to prove that the subpoena is burdensome and harassment and improper, you have to be served first. Then you can file a motion to quash the subpoena like everyone else has had to do, including me. But before then, the judge can't really say anything about the subpoena because she hasn't told him why is burdensome and why is overreaching and why she shouldn't be subpoenaed. She claims that she's a non-party here, but how can she be a non-party when she's already subpoenaed by Blake Lively and she's her witness? That doesn't make any sense. And as I said before, they're talking about us, content creators and journalists, as third party. So we are more involved in this than Isabella Ferrer, that were on set, that was with Blake Lively like this during the entire promotion of the movie. She's less involved than us.
When someone avoids being served, it sends a message. To the court, it looks like fear. To the public, it looks like guilt. And to jurors, it can look like a cover-up. Remember, until Ferrer is actually served, she has no legal standing to challenge the subpoena. She can't claim it's overly burdensome, she can't argue it's irrelevant, she can't file a motion to quash. She's in limbo. That's why her avoidance raises so many red flags. If she has nothing to hide, why not accept the papers, testify, and clear her name? Instead, she's playing cat and mouse. And the longer it goes on, the more damaging it becomes. Not just for her, but for Blake Lively. Let's be clear. Isabella Ferrer isn't just some random witness. She's closely connected to Lively, someone who could potentially back up or undermine her story. By dodging subpoenas, Ferrer isn't just protecting herself. She's creating the appearance that Lively's side has something to fear, and perception matters. If jurors eventually hear that one of Lively's allies tried everything possible to avoid testifying, they'll ask themselves, what was she so desperate to hide? If Ferrer does eventually testify and contradicts Lively on even one key point, the credibility of Lively's entire case could collapse. It only takes one inconsistency to plant doubt. And right now, Ferrer is practically broadcasting that her testimony might not line up with Lively's claims. Otherwise, why dodge it so hard? This case highlights the huge gap between how things look in the media and how they play out in court. In the press, Ferrer's harassment claim made Baldoni look like a predator. Another strike against him, another headline for gossip blogs. But in court, the judge's ruling stripped that claim of all its power. He made it clear, subpoenas aren't harassment, they're procedure. And Baldoni's team is within their rights to keep trying until they succeed. That ruling doesn't just weaken Ferrer's argument, it undermines Lively's broader narrative. Her entire case rests on portraying Baldoni as manipulative, aggressive, even abusive in his tactics. But here, the judge has effectively said the opposite. He's not abusing the system, he's following it. For a jury, that kind of legal reality can cut through months of spin in seconds. You've got a witness who looks like she's hiding, you've got a judge who's tired of excuses, you've got media headlines that don't match the legal truth, and at the center, you've got Blake Lively, whose case relies on people like Ferrer to support her story. That's why this development is so explosive. It's not just about whether Ferrer testifies, it's about what her avoidance says about the strength or weakness of Lively's entire lawsuit. If Baldoni's team succeeds in serving her, and if her testimony damages Lively's credibility, it could turn this entire case upside down. And make no mistake, the judge's patience is running thin. If he's already denying sanctions and telling Baldoni's lawyers to press harder, what happens when he finally has Ferrer in his courtroom? One thing is clear, hiding won't work forever. And when Ferrer finally has to speak under oath, Hollywood may hear a very different story than the one Blake Lively has been telling. Let's rewind and examine how we got to this bizarre moment where serving legal papers became a controversial act, because the path to this point reveals a masterclass in media manipulation that would make political operatives proud. The Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni saga began during the production and promotion of It Ends With Us. What the public initially saw was presented as a simple creative disagreement between co-stars and co-producers that spiraled out of control due to personality conflicts and artistic differences. But that narrative was carefully constructed and strategically deployed. The real story involves months of coordinated leaks, calculated media campaigns, and systematic character assassination that reveals the true power dynamics in Hollywood. Lively filed her initial complaint claiming that Baldoni orchestrated a coordinated attack on her reputation. She alleged that his team planted negative stories in the media, manipulated search engine results, and systematically destroyed her career prospects through a sophisticated smear campaign involving publicists, journalists, and social media influencers. Media coverage was immediate, overwhelming, and suspiciously uniform. Every major entertainment outlet picked up the story with headlines that assumed guilt before investigation. Justin Baldoni accused of harassment campaign. Blake Lively reveals systematic abuse. Another Hollywood predator exposed. But here's what the media didn't investigate, and what reveals the coordinated nature of this entire campaign: the timing, the strategic coordination, and the calculated nature of these revelations. Every leak was perfectly timed for maximum impact. Every revelation was designed to dominate news cycles. Every piece of information was presented in a way that made independent investigation nearly impossible for journalists working on deadline. Baldoni responded with his own legal action, arguing that he was the real victim of a calculated smear campaign designed to shift blame away from Lively's own controversial behavior during the film's production and promotion phases. His counter-lawsuit provided evidence of coordination between Lively's team, her publicist Leslie Sloan, and various media outlets. It showed text messages, emails, and strategic communications that painted a very different picture of who was actually running a smear campaign and who was the real victim of coordinated harassment. The evidence suggested a systematic effort to destroy Baldoni's reputation while positioning Lively as a sympathetic victim, complete with strategic media placements and coordinated social media campaigns. Enter Isabella Ferrer, an actress who worked on the film and became a crucial witness precisely because of her proximity to both Lively and Baldoni during the production. Her testimony could potentially expose the difference between what actually happened on set and what's been presented to the public through carefully crafted narratives. That's exactly why both legal teams want to question her under oath. And that's exactly why her sudden decision to play hide-and-seek raises so many red flags about what she might reveal under cross-examination that could contradict the official story. The judge's ruling reveals a critical understanding of legal procedure that the media coverage completely missed, and it's an understanding that could determine the outcome of this entire case and set precedents for celebrity legal battles.
One of the YouTube channels called Without a Crystal Ball, Katie, who's behind that channel, posted on Instagram that she had received tons of emails and text messages from James Tutushka, where he was telling her that he was pressured to sign that first sworn statement by the Daily Mail. And they pressured him to say that because they didn't want him to be subpoenaed, and they were angry with him because it was now revealed that he had revealed sources that came to the Daily Mail. As a journalist, you should always protect your sources, which he didn't do because he voluntarily gave this information to Brian Friedman, who then used this information in the countersuit against Leslie Sloan and Blake Lively.
In simple terms that any viewer can understand, you cannot claim a subpoena is burdensome, harassing, or improper until you've actually been served with it and had the opportunity to review its contents and specific demands. Think of it like this. You can't complain about the contents of a letter you refuse to open. You can't claim a contract is unfair if you won't read its terms. And you can't argue that legal process is abusive if you won't allow that process to occur through normal channels. The legal system requires a specific sequence that protects everyone's rights. First, you receive the subpoena. Second, you review its demands and scope. Third, if you believe it's unreasonable or overreaching, you file a motion to quash with specific grounds for your objection. Only then can a judge evaluate whether the subpoena is proper or improper based on actual evidence rather than speculation. Ferrer's team tried to skip this fundamental step, essentially asking the judge to rule on the appropriateness of a document she refused to receive or review. It's like asking a restaurant critic to review a meal you won't let them taste, or asking someone to judge a book they're not allowed to read. The judge's response was a masterclass in judicial restraint and legal procedure. He essentially told her, "You want to complain about harassment? Fine. But first, you need to actually receive the document you're complaining about. Then we can have a substantive discussion about whether your complaints have merit based on evidence rather than assumption." This creates a devastating precedent for Lively's broader case, because it exposes a pattern of procedural gamesmanship that federal judges absolutely despise and will not tolerate. Federal judges deal with hundreds of cases involving subpoenas, discovery disputes, and witness cooperation every year. They know the difference between genuine legal concerns and strategic obstruction designed to gain advantage. They can spot witness coordination and coaching from a mile away. When a witness claims that standard legal procedures constitute harassment, when they refuse service while cooperating with the opposing side, when they make claims about being uninvolved while actively participating in case preparation, these are red flags that suggest the witness is being coached, coordinated, or instructed by interested parties. But there's another legal landmine that nobody's talking about, and it could expose everyone involved to serious criminal liability that would make the civil case look trivial by comparison. If it can be proven that Ferrer's evasion tactics were coordinated with Lively's legal team, if there's evidence of instruction or encouragement to avoid service while cooperating with their investigation, then we're looking at potential witness tampering or obstruction of justice charges. These aren't civil matters that get resolved with monetary damages and settlements. These are federal crimes that can result in prison sentences and permanent criminal records. And they're exactly the kind of charges that federal prosecutors love to pursue when they think wealthy defendants believe they're above the law. But perhaps the most damaging revelation has nothing to do with courtroom procedures and everything to do with the fundamental contradiction at the heart of Blake Lively's entire legal strategy. Blake Lively just signed a new movie deal with Lionsgate, the same major studio behind A Simple Favor, Now You See Me, and countless other successful films. The project is called The Survival List, and Lively made absolutely sure that every major entertainment outlet covered her attachment to this high-profile new role. The timing couldn't be worse for her legal strategy, and the implications are absolutely catastrophic for her financial claims against Baldoni. Here's why this is so devastating. Lively's entire case hinges on the argument that Baldoni's alleged smear campaign destroyed her reputation and cost her work opportunities in Hollywood. She's demanding millions of dollars in financial compensation for lost roles, damaged earning potential, and the systematic destruction of her Hollywood career. Her legal filings paint a picture of an actress whose livelihood was obliterated by a coordinated attack on her reputation. She claims that Baldoni's actions made her unhireable in Hollywood, that major studios now view her as a liability, and that her career may never recover from the reputational damage he allegedly caused. Yet here she is, actively booking new projects with major studios, while Baldoni's career appears to be in complete freefall. The optics are so bad, they border on comedic, and they create an impossible contradiction for her legal team to explain. In simple terms, that any jury would understand. This means her claims of career damage become nearly impossible to prove in court. How can she argue that Baldoni destroyed her livelihood when she's actively signing new movie deals? How can she claim reputational harm when major studios are still eager to work with her and attach her name to their projects? But here's where it gets even more revealing about who's actually being victimized by a smear campaign. Look at what's happened to the careers of these two actors since this controversy began. Blake Lively, new movie deals with major studios, continued industry support, active social media presence, public appearances at high-profile events, and a media narrative that consistently positions her as a brave victim standing up to systemic abuse. Justin Baldoni, complete radio silence from studios, canceled and abandoned projects, disappeared from social media platforms, no new work announcements or industry support, and a media narrative that assumes guilt before any trial or evidence presentation. So who's the real victim of a coordinated smear campaign here? The evidence of actual career damage points in exactly the opposite direction of Lively's legal claims and financial demands. This contradiction reveals the calculated nature of this entire controversy and exposes the real strategy at work. Lively isn't just fighting a legal battle, she's executing a sophisticated public relations strategy designed to eliminate a professional rival while positioning herself as a sympathetic figure deserving of public support. The goal was never just to win in court. It was to destroy Baldoni's career while protecting and enhancing her own, all while claiming to be the victim of the exact tactics she was actually employing. The most explosive development involves James Tutushka, Daily Mail reporter whose testimony could determine the entire case's outcome. His story reveals everything wrong with this case and exposes the lengths to which all sides will go to control the narrative rather than reveal the truth. Tutushka's original sworn statement was crucial in helping get Leslie Sloan, Lively's publicist and strategic communications expert, dismissed from Baldoni's counter-lawsuit. His testimony formed the foundation for protecting Lively's team from serious legal consequences. He initially testified under oath that Sloan never provided him with information specifically intended to damage Baldoni's reputation, and that their interactions were purely professional and above board. This testimony was absolutely crucial because it was the foundation for dismissing serious charges against Lively's publicity team. Without Tutushka's sworn statement, Sloan could have faced legal consequences for allegedly orchestrating a systematic media smear campaign. But now, in a development that reads like a legal thriller designed to expose the corruption at the heart of celebrity journalism, Tutushka has filed a completely contradictory statement, claiming he was pressured and coerced by Daily Mail executives to lie in his original testimony. The new statement claims that he was forced to protect his sources and his employment by deliberately misrepresenting his interactions with Leslie Sloan. He now says that Sloan did indeed try to plant negative stories about Baldoni, and that his original testimony was coerced under threat of termination. But here's where the story becomes truly explosive and reveals the depths of deception involved. Between his first and second sworn statements, Tutushka provided detailed evidence to other journalists showing exactly what Leslie Sloan had tried to accomplish through their relationship. He gave emails, text messages, and recorded conversations to Katie Joy from Without a Crystal Ball, showing that Sloan's only mission was to defame Justin Baldoni through strategic media placements. He called Sloan a liar and said he fully supported Baldoni's position and believed he was being systematically destroyed. This creates a paper trail of communications that contradicts both of his sworn statements. Tutushka didn't just lie once. He's been caught lying multiple times to multiple people with written evidence of his contradictions preserved in electronic communications. The implications are absolutely staggering for everyone involved. If his original testimony was false, then the dismissal of charges against Sloan might have been based on perjury, making it invalid. If his new testimony is false, then he's committed perjury again in an attempt to correct his previous perjury. Either way, Tutushka has completely destroyed his credibility as a witness. Neither side can use his testimony without opening themselves up to charges of relying on a proven liar whose statements have been contradicted by his own communications. But the real revelation lies in what this exposes about the broader pattern of this entire case. Witnesses changing stories when it's convenient, strategic revelations that always seem to benefit one side or the other, and a systematic attempt to control information and narrative, rather than reveal objective truth. The judge's latest ruling sends a crystal-clear message that legal procedure matters more than public opinion, that evidence trumps narrative construction, and that the court system will not be manipulated by celebrity status, media pressure, or coordinated public relations campaigns. Despite intensive public relations campaigns designed to influence the outcome before any evidence was presented, the court is demanding actual proof rather than theatrical accusations. Despite coordinated media coverage that assumed guilt and treated allegations as established facts, the judge is requiring substantive evidence rather than assumption and speculation. Each development in this case reveals the same devastating pattern. What looks dramatic and compelling in headlines often crumbles completely when subjected to actual legal scrutiny. What seems emotionally persuasive in social media posts falls apart when subjected to cross-examination and evidence-based analysis. Ferrer's evasion tactics have backfired spectacularly, exposing potential coordination and raising serious questions about obstruction that could result in criminal charges. Lively's new movie deal has completely undermined her claims of career damage and reputational harm. Tutushka's credibility crisis has eliminated a key witness and exposed the fundamentally unreliable nature of testimony in this case. But here's what nobody in Hollywood wants to admit or discuss publicly. This case was never really about harassment, smear campaigns, or protecting victims. It was about power, control, and the ability to destroy someone's career through accusation alone, without evidence, investigation, or due process. The real question facing the entertainment industry isn't whether Baldoni or Lively will ultimately win in court. The real question is whether Hollywood will learn anything from this spectacular failure of due process, from this masterclass in how accusations can be weaponized for competitive advantage, and from this demonstration of how sophisticated media manipulation can substitute for actual evidence in the court of public opinion. If this case moves forward to actual trial, it could expose everything that happens behind the scenes in celebrity controversies: the coordinated media campaigns, the systematic witness coaching, the strategic leaks designed to influence public opinion, and the calculated destruction of reputations based on nothing more than convenient accusations and celebrity status rather than verified facts. The judge had enough of the procedural games, the strategic evasions, and the theatrical accusations masquerading as legitimate legal arguments. The question now is whether the entertainment industry will learn the same lesson about the importance of evidence over narrative, truth over strategy, and justice over public relations. What do you think about these latest developments? Are we finally witnessing justice being served in a system that's been corrupted by celebrity influence and media manipulation? Have we reached a turning point where accusations alone can no longer destroy careers without evidence? Or is this just another chapter in Hollywood's ongoing credibility crisis? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and make sure you're subscribed with notifications on, because this story is far from over, and the next developments could be even more explosive. The truth has a way of surfacing eventually, and in this case, it might be more shocking than anyone could have imagined.